Welcome to panel 2 of our awareness campaign. It's personal, reframing the refugee crisis in the EU. To learn more about the full campaign, please visit us at Afghans Empowered on Instagram or Full Potential on Instagram as well. We are just wrapping up week 2 of our campaign, where we've covered the migration in the EU from the period of 2015 to 2018. But we realized that we really can't complete this conversation and fully understand the important issues that our campaign discusses without listening to the expertise, the accounts, and experiences of our exceptional guests today. And so with that, we want to introduce our panelists for today, Rania and Mustafa Ali, who is joining us virtually from Austria. And for the time being, we may be expecting an additional guest who would be tuning in from Greece. But for now, we are going to continue on with Rania. So thank you for joining us. We're super, super happy to have you. I've seen all of your work. I'm very, admiring of all the work that you do. And it's really quite the pleasure to have, you come with us here and spend some time talking to us about everything that you've been working on currently. So what can you tell us about yourself, Rania?
Yeah, first, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the work that you guys are doing also. I've checked your some of the work that you're doing, and I think it's amazing, and I think it's very much needed at this time. What can I tell you about myself? So
No pressure.
Right. So I'm Syrian. I'm from Syria, and I am based in Vienna. I started working as a journalist in 2014, you can say, more or less. It came by training, I didn't study, I didn't actually go to university for it, for journalism. It was just because when the demonstrations were happening in Syria, the protests, I happened to be one of the people who were recording, filming, whatever you can call it. Yeah. I moved, yeah. That's a very nice way to put it. I came to Austria in 2016 as a refugee, obviously, and it was through the Mediterranean route that everybody takes. I think the millions who have already crossed to Europe, it was the same way for me too. And since then, I've been living in Vienna. I am still working I'm doing journalism. I am also pursuing a degree in international relations. So I do that too on the side. And yeah, that's basically, that's what I can tell you about myself. It's just that yeah, I'm a Syrian refugee based in Vienna. That's to put it very short.
Definitely, and thank you for giving us a really important background about yourself, and so that we could understand, especially what we want to talk about is your work and experience as the individual that you are and the activism that you do while you're in Europe as well. So can you talk to us about some of your recent projects or some of the works that have been published from you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I'm gonna say very, very recent, it would be I'm now doing I recently finished a regional analysis with the Council of Europe for about gender-based violence and intersectionality. Obviously, a big part of it is refugee women who are more prone to in general, whether it's sexual harassment, whether it's violence, domestic violence, also covering the way that when women are on the way to Europe, it's also easier to take advantage of the vulnerable situation that they're in, and that means the smugglers, these whole circles of people who even use women for it's abuse. You can I really am trying not to use harsh words, although it's a reality, but I try to avoid them in my words as much as possible. But yeah, So basically that's what we did. And now I am doing I'm more focused on mental health amongst refugees, because it is a topic that is just overlooked. No one even mentions it, no one talks about it, although this is a whole generation that is traumatized, whether it was by war itself or the way that they came to that they escaped to safety. All that put them in a more in a more vulnerable group that is more open to having mental health issues. So therefore we're doing this. I'm doing this project with a friend of mine, and it is now under the umbrella of a UK based organization. It's called I Found, the International Forum of Understanding. And so so our aim and goal is to reach refugees in camps and to offer mental health sessions, you can call it, or of course it's going to be led by professionals. It's not me who's going to try to give therapy sessions, but I can say that these are the most two recent things. On the side, it was the church started to ring the bells, so it's very close. Sorry for the disruptions.
That's
But
okay.
on the very few days ago, it was International Women's Day, and we organized an online event about the theme of this year's International Women's Day, which is women in leadership. And we had the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon. Mr. Ban Ki-moon was there. He gave an opening speech, and so it was more, these days everything is gonna be online, the way that we're meeting right now. So we tried to make it as dynamic and as interactive as possible, and I think it was good. But these are the most recent things that are
Yeah. Thank you. We are actually going to introduce our next guest. She's currently in the waiting room. She's been able to join us. So we will continue on this with you, Rania, but I just want to give Parwana an opportunity to come in. So just one moment. Oh, so we're actually really excited. We just had Parwana Amiri join us from Greece. Very happy to have you here as our second panelist. We were just speaking to Rania, and so we're just going to take a brief moment to introduce Parwana here. Parwana John, thank you so much again for taking the time to join us for this very important discussion. So like we had asked Rania before, what can you tell us about yourself?
Hello, thank you very much for your invitation. I'm really glad to be here and also share my experiences and speaking about the condition in Greece. I am Parwana Amiri from Afghanistan, and currently I live with my family, where we arrived in 2019, in September 2019, and it has been for 1 year and 4 months that I am in Greece with my family, and currently I live in Ritsona camp.
Okay, thank you, Parwana John. And we will have the opportunity to really speak on your work, the incredible project that you do, and then the level of activism that you have shared with the world. It's absolutely fantastic, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. Back to you, Rania John. You did have an opportunity to speak with us about your most recent projects and the campaign sort of that you are doing in partnership with the UK organization. I just wanted to ask you, in your experience and your work, what is being misrepresented about the experience of refugees who are trying to seek asylum in Europe?
So this is something that is has been talked a lot about, the misrepresentation and the way that refugees are being portrayed, whether through media or politicians, and the way that they're being used as more or less like a political tool or scapegoat, that unfortunately a lot of politicians are using it. And the biggest misrepresentation is that, for me, that the way that I saw it, and it is that refugees are coming to Europe because it's easy to do it, because they just suddenly woke up one day and they were like, oh, let's go to this country and take advantage of their welfare system, which is absolutely wrong. There is no base of it at all. I said that once, and I will keep saying it, is that coming to Europe was never a choice for everyone, for all the refugees. It's not a choice. It's about a circumstance that was forced on them, and people had to try to make the best of it. So I would say that's the biggest thing. The way that refugees are coming because Europe has a good welfare system, and they are just coming here to take advantage of it. And of course, they're lazy, but at the same time, they're stealing jobs. So I don't know how that one works. And it's a very big thing. It's a very big thing in all Europe through, and a big number of the population, unfortunately, does believe in it. And it is so easy for the politicians to manipulate them through these raw, like untrue
Stereotypes.
stereotypes. Yeah, exactly. The second misrepresentation is I think it would be the level of education that some refugees have or don't have. And that's also very, it has a very dangerous aspect to it, because obviously the way that if you portray this human being who is uneducated, who doesn't I don't know, who's never been exposed to the world, it is it's funny and also sad, but to the point where it's like some people get surprised when they see a refugee with a phone, or I don't know, or like if you have a decent life, more or less, right? And it's a big surprise for them, and then it's like expected to be, oh, you're this poor victim who doesn't know anything, who never had an education in their countries. And we also here jumps in I think it's the white savior complex, because then a lot of people are like, oh, look at them, those poor little refugees who don't know what a phone is, and I can jump in and do something there. And these are both very dangerous, in their own ways, whether it's portraying them as victims or dangerous uneducated people, or as as someone who is maliciously coming to Europe to take advantage of a welfare system that honestly isn't very supportive. It is good. It's props to them. It's a good system, but as a person, it's not something you want to live off. You don't want to. That's not something that you want to do. It's not enough. It's not. And a lot of people didn't even know, like I personally didn't even know about the welfare system. I honestly did not even know that Europe has this well-established system that allows you to, I don't know, get 700 euros a month, which is nothing, because an apartment costs 500 and you're left with 200. So basically just food, which is very basic. So yeah, these two things are really big in the media, and it's the victimization, the danger, the level of dangerousness. I'm not even sure if this is a word, or
it is now.
It is now, right? Yeah, we added to the dictionary. And or the reason of why refugees are coming to Europe in first place.
Absolutely, yeah. Parwana, do you have, or have you have you faced similar misrepresentations, or would you say those are the same misrepresentations of refugees that you've seen in the media or experienced yourself?
As we are living in the camp and we don't have like totally communication with the local people, so we really don't know about their perspective that they may have about our life in the camp, because think that you are living in a place where there is another place that seems like a prison, but there's in another way it is like a modern village that is surrounded by the chains, and that a lot of people are living inside, so it can be exposed as anything. And last time there was was a news written in the local media, and it was written as it exposed the camp as boiling pot. Like the refugees are have problem every day. They are fighting every day. They are throwing a stone on the on the police cars, and that every day. I mean, we really don't know about the news that they may be written about us in the newspaper. That is the problem, because even we don't know about the misrepresentations that we may have, behind ourselves. And but when we are in the common spaces and we face like segregations, we face like different treatment of the local community, we know that there are news behind that we are facing this reactions. So that seems that if we would be in the community more than we are now, then we would face much more. But at the moment that we are like far from them and anything that can be published about us, we are like this part of the life here, and being in the town and facing this kind of treatment is really harsh, and it is really bothering for all of those that are living in the camps.
Right. Yeah. The segregation and isolation, it reminds me of something that I've actually seen through your Twitter in the demonstrations you've published within the camp. And one of the things that really stood out to me that I believe you said was that we are invisible. And certainly, I mean, I'm sure the segregation and isolation you're experiencing plays into that. Would you agree?
Definitely. Invisibility means that we are not able to speak, we are not able to act, we are not able to integrate in the society, we are not able to speak with others, and we are not able to speak about our rights, defend that. And even when we are acting and we are standing for our right, it seems something unacceptable for the community, because they haven't heard something about that, they haven't read about our problems. But if they would read about our problems, if they would know, they would support us. This is that the ones that they were before us living in the camp and they didn't act for their rights, today we are like paying the expense of their previous actions, their silence, to be honest. But yes, we are doing that because we want to reduce this invisibility. Even if it is making news about us, even it is we are creating oppositions, that means this is the beginning of change. At least some people in the local community are trying to know that what is the problem that they are protesting, what is the problem that they now started after 4 years, and what is the problem in a camp that is called Ritsona. We really don't want to have Ritsona as only a refugee camp that 3,000 vulnerable refugees are living inside. We want to know them, that there are people who are able to present their feelings, to express their feelings, in order to not be represented easily from the prefects.
And that's a very important note to present. And I've seen Parwana through your work, in which I really hoped for us to get into that. This is a way for you to express, I think, all this sentiment and these observations that you have being in the camp right now. And so we really will have the opportunity to touch on it. A little bit back to you, Rania. And so we're speaking still on this topic of misrepresentation. How do you combat the misrepresentation? And so what is your message, or how does your advocacy work to provide a voice for migrants' rights in Europe?
Yeah, first, thank you, Parwana, for what you said previously. That also links to what I'm going to say. It's that this demonization of refugees that is happening very blatantly. It's no one is even denying it. It's happening. People are doing it. Media is doing it. Politicians are doing it, and it is on purpose. And that comes. Sorry, they're just decided today to do some construction, whatever that is happening. But yeah, it comes from the lack of refugees, or the lack of media work that is, I don't know what's happening. I swear they like it's 6:30 here and they decided to do some drilling. Okay, I apologize.
We can still hear you clearly, so you're totally
okay. Great.
Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay. So what was I saying? That there are many reasons why this is still happening. That why is it that it's the way that people are, the way that refugees are represented in the media is very false. Is at first because the work that refugees are doing, it is not being covered as much. Second, it is coming from the point of view of the European, of the person who has no idea what does it mean to live in a camp, what does it mean to risk your life and put your kids in a boat to try to seek a better life, which is a very basic human right. They don't know what it means for your dignity to be stripped away from you and then be sold back to you as a privilege, giving back to you as, oh, this is a privilege, you should be happy that you have your dignity. The way that I do it is debunking all these myths. This is my work, and whatever I'm doing, whatever advocacy, whatever wherever I am speaking, it is about, even in my daily life, even with my friends, even if it's in the train or whatever, it's working on debunking these myths, these stereotypes that has no ground, and actually pointing out that the only reason that these stereotypes are being publicized, they're all over, is because it's coming from someone who doesn't even know what that experience is. When I filmed my journey to Europe, the sole purpose of it was to show that this is how it really is. It's not about that reporter from BBC standing with this very dramatic scene behind him, looking still pretty posh, talking about how hard it is for refugees in the camp. So lack of original voices, lack of a human experience is I think is a very big factor into why is it still happening. Why is Parwana, for example, is living in a camp where it's hard enough, but let alone that it's hard enough, there are people outside saying these spreading these false information about a place that was created by their own government, a place that was made into whatever it is right now by their own government. It's not the refugees' fault. It's not. And what fights happen everywhere. You can come to the most prestige neighborhood in Vienna and you see people fighting in the streets. And so it's not about the place where you're from or the place that you're in. It just happens anywhere. But the main problem, which is overlooked, and I think it's a very hypocritical thing to do, that is this problem was created by your own government because they went against the law. This is not legal. Whatever is happening right now is not legal, and that's why you don't hear about it. That's why it's being pushed under the rug, and that's why more and more people should speak about it. And but when I checked your Twitter, I mean, well done. This is more. We need more voices like this. We need from the you can call it from the action, from the scene, the people
on the ground.
On the ground, yes, people need to use their voices that is for some reason has been taken away from them, and it's still being done on purpose so that the real human experience is not shown. The humanity that is among all this chaos is being lost, and it's being deformed, and it's being turned into this monstrous, dangerous being that is coming to take their money, or I don't know, change the lifestyle, or whatever that can come across someone's mind. So speaking up, I think speaking up, and I know that's a very vague thing to do, but because you can speak up in any way, and you can do it in many different ways. You can talk to people face to face, you can do it on social media, you can create your own content and show what is really happening, and it does have an effect. it really has an effect, because people are also being put in the dark. The Europeans, they're also in the dark. They really don't know what's happening. So we owe it to us and to them to tell the truth. I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really important. You mentioned various groups, and this question may seem a little redundant, but I just felt it was important to ask, who is your primary audience? I mean, who does this need to be directed to, in your opinion?
Yeah, you know, it is, I don't have a specific audience. I've worked with policymakers to try to implement new laws. I've worked with NGOs. My audience is the public also, because they drive they vote for the people who are making these laws. So it could be, my audience could be someone who I met at a party and they said something that is racist or that is false, and I will happily ruin the party and turn it into a political debate. So
I would
just
say they
to,
ruined it first through their racist
right?
remarks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to just to show what it really is, you know, to just to again to debunk it, to tell the truth. And so there's no specific audience. It depends on where I am and what is the scene. And yeah, and I think it's important to target everyone when possible. Of course, it's not an easy thing to do, but yeah.
Of course. And as for, you know, we're talking about speaking up and speaking, you know, as authoritative voices on your unique experiences. And Parwana, that's exactly the work that you've been engaging in. Can you speak more about the specific work that you have been doing from within the camp, and, you know, who you hope to target or what you hope to accomplish, you know, through your activism? Oh, and I apologize, Parwana, it looks like you're muted.
As Rania mentioned about it, that everybody that they are living in the ground, and they are aware that other people are speaking about it, they should speak out. But how can they do that when the asylum apply is a threat for all refugees? It is a threat for all of them. If you see that less refugees are speaking because all of them are afraid of, if I'm speaking now, I am maybe being threatened by what I am speaking about it or what I'm writing about it. And it has been always the same, you know, but silence has never been a solution. And I believe on that. I know that, you know, speaking up and, asking for justice and for your right is much, you know, has a dignity, but repression doesn't. Repression is getting your dignity. In Moria, and following your question, in Moria, as it was really hard for me to directly have actions and to have direct actions. It was really hard. That's why I started my activism out, writings, like speaking about realities, writing about realities and everything that was hidden from the eyes of the people, from the eyes of media, and everything that was totally hidden in Moria. And less journalists were coming because on that time Moria was not well, the worst refugee camp in Ireland. And that's why I was writing, and my writings were published in Welcome to Europe platforms. And after that, but on that time I was doing that anonymously. And I know that there are a lot of people who are doing journalistic works, but they are anonymous. There are a lot of people, they are taking photos from the ground in Moria, but they are anonymous because most of the refugees, a lot of part of us are afraid of being threatened by the state. After getting transferred in, when my book under name of Letters to the World from Moria was published, I started the same collection in Ritsona. However, I was thinking that in Ritsona I'm going to start a new life, decent life with all aspects of a normal life. but it didn't happen. Even having access to education still is a dream for me and for more 800 children that are out of school and only in Ritsona. So after that, I started also my writings, and after then, working with the young people and setting the Young Refugees Movement group, working on the on different issues like having the Corona awareness team. And as I was teacher in our self-organized school in Moria, I decided to do the same thing in Ritsona as well, and with a group of other volunteer teachers, we could set up a self-organized programs for the adults and for the children in order to reduce the access of education a bit less, and also to give some educational opportunities for the adults and for the children. Beside that, there are another part is activism part, and like in the previous week, we had one week of a strike, campus strike in Ritsona, that made almost a big noise. And many things. I mean, whenever that I see an opportunity in order to take action, I want to be in the first line, and and especially in order to involve the communities in these activities, and through these activities to show them in media, and to let them know that media is not a threat, and working about your life should not be a threat, and in order to reduce that.
And you mentioned very key things about what needs to be sort of said and what needs to be presented from your point of view as an individual who's residing in these camps. And I wanted to draw from something you mentioned that I found extremely powerful about your letters. You said this in a past interview. It was a quote that you said, although there are humanitarian organizations and journalists who are crowding the camps, they don't fully grasp the conditions. So I want to ask you from yourself, what do you want the world to know that hasn't been properly shared or understood about, the conditions in refugee camps?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Of course, yeah. I was referring to a very important statement that you said about humanitarian organizations and journalists not really understanding or fully grasping conditions in the camp. So what do you want to share with the world about that experience, about what's going on in these refugee camps?
I want to let the world know that we can speak about ourselves, we can represent ourselves, and we really don't need to have representatives in each stage. And there are some stages and floors that should be given directly to the refugees. When you are speaking about their problems, you should have them in order to express themselves. When you want to make affections on the audiences, let them to speak about their problems, not you in a way that you want other people to know them. And we really cannot trust on media. Last time that I had in hope of getting heard, we had the journalists coming on the protest speaking, having interview with me. Before the interview, we in the protest, the Riot police separated the tear gas on us. When I mentioned this part, exactly this part was cut out of my interview. Exactly that part was cut out of the interview. When we cannot, trust on the media, and also not all of the NGOs, but a part of the NGOs are representing those part of our problems that may make benefits on them, on the fields that they may have beneficial beneficial parts for themselves. They are doing that. So that is the main reason I want the refugees, and I want to in a way to encourage and empower the refugees, especially the young ones whose their future is in danger, to speak about their rights and to to take this fear away and to stand up. Because I've seen that our adult kings are not as cetaceans in many ways. They have cetaceans, but when they see that somebody is standing in the line, they are supporting them. I saw this in my own community. But yes. we can't represent our problems. We can't present and express our feelings and our difficulties, hardships, and speak about our problems. So why shouldn't we do that?
And that's really important. I really thank you for sharing that, sharing. It just feels so, it's so much more real, I think, if I could say myself, to have that not shared by anybody else and not have it represented away. And it's really important that you do have that space to share exactly how your experiences without filtration. You know, I think we don't want to be in any situation in which different media can invalidate a very real experience. And so I really thank you for telling us these details, for you know, being very strong about it. I really appreciate that. I wanted to say that, or ask you, you know, what is the sort of the level of work that you do to continue this conversation, as it pertains to your work and your projects, to ensure that the untold problems are still being heard and understood by the broader community? What can you tell us about your current works and activism?
At the moment, I am working on, beside my writings, beside working with the communities, I'm also writing by getting interviews from people directly, you know, and writing their stories through a collection of 1,000 stories and dreams from Ritsona. And I think every camp should write that, because it is, I mean, in this collection, you will not see only the you know, the bitter part of the refugees' life, but also to see that they have also their own dreams they want to reach to. They came in order to reach to these dreams, not to see that they are sinking in the pains and the injustices and the, you know, unfair rules and legislations. And like, sometimes I feel that a lot of refugees here, their passion is getting repressed while I'm working with the young people. And also, I want to start getting interviews, like, so to say, conversations, like having them in the panel, young refugees from different camps, because while working with refugees, young refugees in Ritsona, I found out that working with young people and having young people in the panels and the events, and also having conversations and having their voices be heard, make the greatest effect on the, on all of the communities, you know, and it can change the perspective. And I want to have this change in perspective, because after changing perspective, you can change their speech. After changing their speech, you can get the solidarity of those that they didn't know really about you.
And I appreciate you again. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you bring up another very important point. And I think we were going to sort of ask this about sort of where the representation is, and, you know, to have that goal to bring young voices, I think, is another dimension that maybe, unfortunately, the media does not pay attention to as well. And there's so many dimensions of misrepresentation that we are all here, and have heard from your experience and from Rani's experience as well. And so I just wanted to sort of ask Rania too, as a journalist and, you know, as a woman, what kind of challenges do you face in being able to speak and represent this level of activism?
Yeah, you know, it's first, I really want to just say that, Parwana, I totally agree with you. You know, refugees don't need someone to speak for them, and that is very disempowering. Whatever that this narrative that we can't speak for ourselves, we need someone else to speak for us. And it is it's great what you're doing. I love what you're doing, because I think through sharing dreams and aspirations or stories, people can relate easier, people can understand it easier. So seriously, well done. To answer your question, Marcel, you know, it depends on it. For example, when I was in Syria, it was the culture that suppresses you as a woman. Unfortunately, it was, oh, this is a man's job. Oh, you can't do this. You know, what if you get caught by the government, by the police or whatever? And then everyone knows that the guy, I mean, if you go to prison, it's not cute. You will either get killed, uh, I mean, sexual harassment or rape, that is always on the table. It's not something that it's not normal. So that was the one of the some of the challenges that I was facing within my own community. It is understandable though, but it was also very it was very hard, you know, because there are a lot of women. I mean, I was lucky enough to not care about whatever was being said, but a lot of women had to put away their voices and their dreams or their hopes, you know, because of how the culture is treating them. The second part is here in Europe, you know, and being a refugee, being a woman, being from Syria, these are all layers, you know, on how much your challenge can be harder, you know. And this is where intersectionality plays a huge role, you know, because they all come in and then it comes up with this huge challenge that you have to overcome. For me, it was being young also participated in that. For example, when I first started to work with an NGO, and it was, I mean, with a real contract and all that, and my boss was a very, very kind man, but unfortunately he had an accident and he died. And then there was this change into, there's this new boss that kind of, there was this notion of, oh, she doesn't know her rights, she doesn't know how things are going, so we will try to, I don't know, you know, like overwork her, try to yeah, can you do that for, I don't know, without being paid, or, you know, these things, you know, and these are very important to me, you know. I mean, I do my job because I love it and because I want to help others, but it's if I'm looking for empowerment, for empowering other, I must be empowered myself as a start. And that atmosphere was kind of a very disempowering, you can say, you know. Unfortunately, being also young and a woman and Syrian, a lot of people really think that you're dumb for some reason. Yeah, and that is an obstacle that you really have to overcome, because you either end up like having a burnout because you are constantly trying to prove yourself, or you are being pushed aside because uh, people think that, okay, you can do this for now, but once you don't have any use, sorry, we're not gonna need you anymore. And that's unfortunately happens in Europe. And you know, it doesn't happen only to me, I'm sure it happens to a lot of other women. If it's whether the wage gap, you know, or just the thought that women are not I don't know, not smart enough to be on the table, like to sit on the table with us, or women are not, they can't take this pressure, they can't do this, they can't, blah blah blah, you know, many excuses that just layer up to give you a really hard time. And as a journalist, I think that's one of the jobs that women get discriminated in even more, because it is always portrayed or presented as a man's world, as a man's job. This is their field, this is what they should do, and the woman is more like a foreigner in that field, and she has to have less rights, she has to be treated differently. And yeah, so you know, there are many reasons, and that contribute to the final result of having being discriminated in your work field, being discriminated whether by the community or by your boss or whatever, you know. There are so many ways that can be very creative into giving you a hard time, unfortunately. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's like another dimension of you know, like you said, being discriminated against, maybe also another form of having your agency taken away from you by assuming all these things just because of your gender and your experiences. And Parwana, as a young female activist, do you relate to any of those struggles because of your gender? Have you faced anything similarly as you're trying to navigate your work?
Being a young refugee, female, Muslim, Afghan is not really an activist, is not really an easy endeavor. It has never been. And, in the beginning of each project that I want to start, I face problems. And it is something normal. Whenever you are facing oppositions, it means you are making change. I am depending on a cultural family. My family is a bit like, because of the society that we grew up, it was heredity. And it was okay, common, it was normal. What happened to my sister, it was something normal, but I didn't want it to be the third victim of the family. I didn't want to be the third female member of the family who may stay silent and do nothing and accept the repression. So the struggles started from my own family. I had to break the chains in the minds of my family in the beginning. After that, in the minds of my community. And after that, the same thing to change the perspective of other communities that we are living together. The most hardest part of my struggle started from Moria, because all of them were telling me that no, don't start your actions, not even your writings, from here. Let to be transferred to another camp, and the condition may get better, and we may not be in a camp. But if I wouldn't start in Moria, I wouldn't be able to start in Ritsona as well, because there would be excuses according to the society, the communities that we have around. For instance, Rania has mentioned that we are living with Syrian community, and as you know, that the Afghan community and Syrian community are all almost have the same perspective about female kings. And I have seen that like for Syrian people, they have even restricted perspective about making rules and limitations for the female members of their family much more. And even I faced that they are locking their daughters or their wives at home when they are not present at home, and it was violence of existence, so to say. And after that, it was the fascist part of the local community that I faced with that. And a part of that, the media that I had to struggle with their comments, with their reactions, with everything. And for the first time, when the one of the local newspapers portrayed and featured my activities, I faced a lot of comments that were written, and it was really something shocking for them, that I think it really doesn't happen often to write about refugees, especially if it is about not their problems, but about their activism, about their initiatives, about their leading part, and everything, like positive positive article to have a positive article about refugees. But it has never been easy, and there are still obstacles, there are still struggles, and like everyday's life is the same. And mostly if you are young and underage, and it is an excuse for many to say that you are not able to take this action, you are not able, you should have or to to put my parents under question. It is one of the hardest parts.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can imagine, with all of those, with all of those dimensions kind of stacked up against you, I can imagine the challenges. And you said earlier, there's even a risk just in speaking up. So then, like, the risk of speaking up, in addition to all those other challenges you face, we can only imagine how incredibly difficult that can be. But to repeat what you said, without opposition, there is no change. And I think that's so important. What you and Rania have been highlighting is how dynamic, your experiences in the face of these stereotypes that are so simple, so one-dimensional, so easy for people to write off, But when as you're pointing out, the reality of your lived experiences is so much more dynamic than people, give you the credit for or recognize, in your own humanity. So it's absolutely incredible, what you're doing compared to what you're up against. So I guess with that, maybe we can segue. Rania, you did mention, your work specifically with women, and especially women in refugee camps. Can you speak a little bit more about that work that you're doing?
So yeah, the work, I was doing some things in Thessaloniki, but I never went to the islands in Greece, and most of my work is also in camps that are in, you can call Western Europe, Austria and above. What we do was, it was I'm just gonna try to give an example. It was this I was working with sorry, I almost cursed on recording. I can't.
We can bleep it out. We can bleep it out.
No, I hate when my brain blanks names. It's the not the European Council, European Commission. Yes, now that yeah. So with the European Commission, it was to investigate the money that Europe has given to Greece to see to help refugees. So it was for me to go to and other members of the commission to see the situation. That's how what are the facilities, how the situation in the camps are, how do they look. I've lived in Moria. I've stayed in Moria for as a refugee in 2016, and that place was a hell. Like, it was a hellish place, and it was awful, and the people didn't even have basic things like blankets, taking a proper shower, and there was all this money being pumped into Greece, and no one knew where this money was going. Like 5 billion, I'm talking. It's not like it's a huge amount of money for back then. There were 40,000 refugees in all Greece, I would say, in the camps. 40,000, 50,000, it's not a big number, and that money was still not being used. So that was one thing. I do also, as I said, mental health is a very important aspect for me, because as I told you, it's very overlooked. People just think, yeah, you're in safety, forget about it. No one cares what happens in your brain anymore. No one cares that you're depressed. No one cares that you have PTSD. And suicide rates have risen in a very dramatic way, and still people do not, you rarely see it in media. You rarely see anyone talking about it, not at all. And as someone who knows how it feels, like, who knows, I mean, I was in the survival mode as many refugees, I think all of the refugees were. You get into the survival mode that it's like, I gotta survive. But once you get to safety, then your trauma comes up, and then you have to fight a whole new war that is really brutal, and unfortunately has taken so many lives. And so the project that we have is that, as I said, it's working in refugee camps in Greece and in Kenya, because Kenya has the biggest refugee camp in the world. And also mental health is a very major issue there, as it is in the camps in Greece. So it is about offering sessions with professional psychotherapists, and to break also the stigma that is around mental health in general. I know for sure that no one talks about mental health, refugees themselves, because immediately if you talk about anything, it's like, oh, you're crazy, or oh god, drama, depression, I don't want that, or you are unstable, or whatever, and people get, it is a scary thing, because I myself, I had to hide for a long time that I had depression, and I was struggling with PTSD because I was scared that I'm gonna lose my job. So I was like, nope, don't talk about it, just ignore it. But eventually you have to sit with yourself, you have to face it, you have to deal with the memories that are scarring. It's not an easy thing. So this is what the project is doing, you know, destigmatizing, breaking breaking the ice, changing the way that people look at mental health, changing it from a crazy person to someone who just is taking care of themselves, someone who needs to take care of their heart and their brain. Because if you, I don't know, break your leg, you, of course, you're not going to jump on it, you're going to take care of it. And same goes for your mental energy. So yeah, this is, and it is I work a lot with women and for women, but also it is, of course, it's the project is, there's no specific target for it. I mean, no specific gender or whatever, or age, because it happens everywhere. And it's not, I mean, an 8-year-old could have depression just as much as an 80-year-old person, and there is the same it's the same importance, you know, or the urgency, level of urgency there. So that's basically what I do with women, you know. And for me, it's also, as I mentioned before, it's working with policymakers to implement the proper laws, that because if someone is gonna be affected by the law, it should come from them. It shouldn't come from someone who's sitting in his or her 5-star hotel going to this party after the meeting. It has to come from the people who are gonna be affected by the law, you know. And I think that should get expand to including people from camps, people, not just people who have made it into Western Europe and living in their apartments or whatever. No, people who are actually in the camps and have to face that reality every single day. So yeah, sorry, that was a very long answer. I just realized.
No, everything you said was so significant, you know, from the stigma to, you know, mental and emotional health not being seen as a priority, especially when, you know, people are dealing with so much trauma. So everything you said was so significant. Parwana, you know, is emotional and mental health something taken into consideration, you know, in your conversations? Is that something that, you know, you really get to talk about?
Can you please repeat the question again?
Absolutely, yeah. Just asking, you know, in the conversation of mental and emotional health, you know, of people living these, you know, traumatic experiences and dynamic experiences, is mental and emotional health something that, you know, you get to discuss within your own community? Is that ever a topic that gets to be brought up?
You know, most of the people may think that when the refugees are getting transferred from islands to mainland, then they are starting a new life and everything is going well. But that is absolutely wrong, because if you compare the condition in Ritsona and in Moria, you can find very, you know, sensitive similarities. For instance, if we are not living under tents, but we are still in the camp, and a camp is a place where you are restricted, where there are limitations and all the rules can be put on you easily because you are all far away of communication. And if we are like in Moria, if we didn't have access to education, it is still the same. If we are not living under mood or around, like we don't have water around our tents, but the problem is that we are all suffering from mental, mental problems. For instance, depression is very common in the camp, and even those that they were healthy without having any like mental problems, most of them are now depressed. They have depression. a lot of young girls and boys are, drinking alcohols or using drugs because they want to forget their pains. But no one cares about that. They're sending the doctors for this addicted people, for addicted young refugees. But why, instead of sending those, experts, and instead of sending the experts in order to speak with them, change the condition for them, make the opportunities for them. Using their passion is not something wrong. I mean, it should be used because it will be for the benefit of the community. And so to say, even there is no concentration for the most vulnerable group of the residents, not to speak about those that they are depressed, not to speak about those that they are attempting suicide, the young people that they are using and they are seriously addicted, and their condition is really, I had the students that they were really well, they were healthy, they were so passionate. The young boy that he is 16, he was my student. He had too much passion. He was playing football every day. He had big dreams, but now he is addicted. He is using different drugs, and it really doesn't matter for him what he's using. Even he doesn't know that, but he is using because he wants to, in a way, forget his pains, to be far from this condition, even if it is for half an hour. And the main reason is that there is no attention on them. Their parents are thinking about how to leave the camp, how to be transferred in another, how to find a way in order to be in the center of Europe, in another country. And their children are the life of their children is wasting away, and no one cares about that. When other people are seeing that there are such young people that are getting addicted, they become so afraid of their own children. And these kind of thoughts, like everyday's life that is the same, all these things are making depression. And I know, and the mothers that they had no problem, and they have young babies, they don't care about their babies, and it is really harsh, it is really hard. It is a very bitter scene to see that, that many of them, they really don't want to have their children around themselves. They are becoming so, it is bothering to hear the noise of their children. And these are all symptoms of becoming, getting mental problems, getting depressed, like to that they just want to be alone without having anyone around themselves. So what are we going to be how are we going to be integrated in a society when we are going to be a group of like depressed people? We really don't want to be like that. We want to have our passion to be in the community, in the local community. If a group of depressed people are going to be integrated and live with, after a while, living with other Europeans in any country, even if it is Greece. So what kind of perspective it's going to be in the mind of the local community? Of course, a very black image out of the refugees.
Mhm, mhm. And if this hasn't been sort of obvious or expressed, in this conversation so far, again, I really, really, really want to thank you both here. To be talking on such heavy discussions, I mean, it's one, thank you so much for opening your trust to us, to talk about mental health this way, to talk about your challenges, to say, hey, I either feel this or I see it. I just want to say, before we kind of keep counting, I just want to say thank you so much. It is so hard when the discussion of mental health, no matter how it affects you and things, we know that the stigmatization of mental health, it makes it really, really hard to speak on it. And to add those levels of complexity, the dynamics of the conditions, that experiences that you have faced, you've observed from your communities, and talk about it. I mean, I just really want to let that be known. So I really do thank you both for that level of honesty and openness. And it is important, right? And so to hear it directly from individuals like yourself, not from anybody else, it's kind of like, it leaves me speechless. So I really have to say that. And so with yourself, Parwana, knowing all this is going on, what can you say about the work that you do, your projects, your writing, how do you use that to help promote that self-expression as a way of outletting and supporting the openness of discussion for mental health and other types of problems? Can you please talk about that?
Mhm. Can you give an example of that?
Oh, I'm asking about some of the projects that you have right now. How do you ensure to connect your outlets of writing and your self-expression? How do you encourage others in your community to do that so that they can express themselves?
Mm-hmm. You know, I know that I'm not doing too much in order to have involve a lot of like young people in the projects, but as much as I can, like trying to speak with them, having workshops with them, like different kind of workshops, poetry workshops, writing workshops, you know, like creative workshops, and anything that may encourage the young people in order to speak, to act, to be in the you know, and the line, and to communicate with others. I'm doing that. But another point is, it is a matter of changing perspective of the community in speaking. When they see that a young girl who is living in the same condition, who is among them, but still is still standing in the front line of the protest, is still standing in the first row and giving the slogans for others to repeat after that, and leading the protest, organizing that, encouraging others, like standing, like trying to raise up the other people's voices. I think these can make affections, because when they see that someone is doing, they also want to do the same, because it is a matter of reducing the fear like from them. And I think I could do that. I see that uh, if it wouldn't happen, Ritsona wouldn't be the first camp who had 1 week of a strike. If it wouldn't make a faction, Ritsona wouldn't be called as the activist like a refugee camp that has a lot of initiatives running in the camp. And that a lot of a lot of things changed, like perspective of the own community about their daughters, about their wives, and about their sisters is changed. Because I think it is really important, especially to have young uh, refugee girls standing for such things and running initiatives, because if they take an action, they are making a lot of change, they are making a lot of affections, and of course everyone's action is important.
Yeah, and I truly agree with that. And the work that you're doing right now is incredible. You really are leading the way for your community, and it is something that we understand is ongoing and needs to be highlighted and prioritized, I think, for all of us to understand, even as an audience. So as we are wrapping up here, Rania, how, with your project that's going on, thank you so much for, really breaking it down, the work that you're doing about gender-based violence and just the intersectionality of that as being a woman, a refugee, and so forth. For yourself here with these types of projects, how can our audience support you? How can we support your activism? And what's that final message that you would like to, leave our audience with?
Yeah, when it comes to support, for me, it's less about support for our initiative, more about the 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 support that they can give to each other, so if your audience is an American or European, or someone more or less you can call in a privileged position, they can check their privileges, which is very important. They can try to look for actual sources of information that gives them the right representation. You can support refugees who are trying to speak up, who have their own initiatives. I mean, I am a refugee also myself. I'm not excluding myself, but I also think I am in a privileged position right now, because I am living in my apartment. I do not have to worry about basic things like a warm shower. I don't have to worry about not having money to eat, you know, and that's all something that a lot of people are not aware of. You know, they don't know that this is happening to that for us it is a normal thing, for others it's a dream. It's something that is they're working towards when it should be granted. So supporting people who are regardless, nevertheless, of all these challenges, someone who is in a camp in Greece, someone who is in Libya, also camps, which is the situation is really hard and difficult there. I mean, racism, there's modern day slavery happening right in Libya, in Turkey, you know, everywhere, in the camps in Lebanon or whatever. There are these talented, ambitious, strong people who are trying to use their voices to share it with the world. They are trying to show a real human experience, and these are the people that deserve to be supported. These are the people that should be heard, and these are the people, you know, it's simple nowadays. By clicking, I don't know, share button, inviting your friends to like and follow, reading their website, having more engagement on their website, whatever you can do, you know. It doesn't have to, you don't have to go and rescue the 40,000 and bring them into your home, but you can do it in different other ways. And you know, again, just to re-emphasize that if you want to hear about, if you want to know what is really happening with refugees, you need to hear it from them. You can't possibly you can't hear it from anyone else, because simply those people might not be lying, but they don't know what that means. They don't know what it means to live in that situation. Only the person who's going through it can do that. And so I think it's if I would sum up my message, it would be to listen to the real voices, support those real voices, be really careful who you vote for, please. I mean, I can't vote, but you can, so really be careful, and don't fall victim to political manipulation, because politicians don't really care about anyone else other than themselves. But you have to vote for the person who at least can give something, and by using other people, they're not working for you, they're working for themselves, by using others as a scapegoat, by politicizing a simple human experience. Just be careful. You have that privilege, you have that power. Use it in a good way. And yeah, I guess that would be it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Parwana, for yourself, and the dynamic of the activism that you have, your presence on social media that we've seen and we've been able to sort of comment on. How can we, I guess the word support is pretty broad, but if you wanted to say something to our audience, in what ways can we support your activism?
You know, it is a matter of supporting the right voices, the matter of those voices that they are getting raised in the most in the hardest situation. However, they are in danger, but they want to reduce this danger from those that they are affected by the same condition. You know, I am not demanding to support my voice, but I want all the audiences, all the people, to support those that they had to leave their homes. And you know, and these supports can come out of having discussions with each other. If you are anywhere, if you are not able to do nothing, absolutely nothing, with like opening this discussion about why did it happen, why they are here, what are their problems, why they are doing that, why they are protesting, why or even not to accept what is read in the articles by the media, or what state is speaking about refugees. These are actions, these are small actions that you can do that, and these are making change in the perspective of other people. And you know, another point is that with all these hard problems and I mean hard condition, and with all these hardships, I still can see hope. This hope does not come from corporations. This hope does not come from a state or government. It comes from solidarity people's action, from your action, from all those people's actions that they are, that is for making change and not making it to be changed as a crisis, because we are facing the humanitarian, like the humanities crisis, when you see that less people are taking action in order to make condition for better.
Thank you so much. That is very important, and we will be sure to also include, as we publish this, ways to interact with your work so that we obviously have access to the source of everything that's going on, everything that's being said. So we do really, really want to highlight the outlets that you both have to express yourselves. And so we will be making sure to do that. But just want to thank you both for joining us in this panel as part of a very important awareness campaign, something that was initially inspired by, I think, how we identify as individuals, and through that compassion, what we want to, help amplify. And so on behalf of myself, on behalf of Afghans Empowered, I really want to thank you both. It is quite an honor. It is a pleasure to hear you, to feel inspired, to feel humbled by every single thing that you guys are doing, and to know that there are so many ways that we can check ourselves as individuals and continue hearing from the exact source of what's really important for our audience, the international community, to understand. And the best way for it to be is really from individuals like yourself. So I want to thank you guys very, very much for your participation in this panel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. Of course.
And that wraps up panel 2 of our ongoing awareness campaign called It's Personal, Reframing the EU Refugee Crisis. For more information on our campaign, you could follow us respectively at Full Potential on Instagram, by the same name on all different types of social media, including the website. Same thing for Afghans Empowered. We currently have an ongoing fundraiser as well, different types of resources. And again, we want to be able to highlight the works of both Rania and Parwana and thank them for their participation. And that wraps up our panel. Thank you.
Thank you.